I think it's safe to say that Creed Aventus is the king of the niche space, not just by sales, by its popularity. How do you know a fragrance is wildly popular? When multiple brands ranging from low budget to high-end designer perfumery decide to use its scent as inspiration. And now with the release of Absolute, it's gonna continue coming over and over because Absolute has a little bit more maturity and a slightly punchier cinnamon note, which I find sexier than the original or this 10th anniversary, which is kind of the same space. So as fragrance fans or even content creators, we tend to have a large variety of inspired fragrances by these monsters right here. So I picked 10 inspirations out of my collection to see which one is the closest to either Aventus or potentially Aventus Absolute. Maybe Creed took some inspiration from the clone brands and how they use their inspirational blends to develop the Absolute. We don't know, but we're gonna find out. Let's roll the music so we can check out which inspiration is closest to the original.
We're all alone. In case you cared, out of all your friends, I want to be
Blessed morning, my beautiful peoples. You know who it is. It's your boy, 𝐷𝐸𝐴. This is going to be an exhausting video, and I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible. I'm going to jump right in with, there's 10 inspirations. I want to say with inspirations, like if you know the Creed Aventus DNA, you know that scent profile. The bergamot, the pineapple, it really pops up and you're kind of just hooked in. If you smelled Aventus 1,000 times, you already know, oh, this is Aventus inspired by. But rarely clones are one-to-one, but to the common man, they can't be really differentiated. To some expert-ish noses, that's not including me. It's like, yo, it's exactly the same. And we all know a ton of people that have done these comparisons and absolutely felt that the $20, $30 renditions give them all the Aventus vibes that they want. So let's go through some of the fragrances that I selected and see which one is the closest to either of these. Now, how to do this accordingly without giving you guys a seizure. So what I've done is the following. I'll show you guys a quick B-roll shot is I've sprayed all the clones, including the originals, on test strips and let them dry down completely. Because ultimately, it's the dry down that gets us the closest, right? But we want to know first impressions as well, because that's what we get. When we spray the fragrance initially, we want to know if first impressions is also close as well. You want to find out what facets, whether from opening to dry down, is the absolute closest, or is the overall package a very close one-to-one interpretation. Now, some of these inspired fragrances are hybrid-ish combinations of, a twist of, but even that twist of can still spark that Aventus memory and still be like, nah, this is way more Aventus than anything else. But there's only one way to find out, and that's by starting smelling the OG Aventus, at least in this case, the 10th anniversary. So let's give that a nice big whiff like we don't know what it smells like. Let's go. Ah, the true essence of masculinity and F-boy energy.
protein power bars.
All right, now let's move down to the Absolute brand new release of Aventus. That little bit of spiciness, that kind of nutmeg cinnamon type energy, definitely much more up my speed. Next, inspired fragrance would be 𝗏𝐸's 19 Degrees. So we got Aventus here, 𝗏𝐸 19 Degrees. No. On the dry down, this one has a little bit more oud, a little dirtier. They have similar pineapple nuances. The bergamot is semi-similar, but the 𝗏𝐸 has its own individuality. It's a little dirtier and grittier and oudier. There's a little bit of a funk like olabdanum kind of scent profile there with a little funk, so interesting. Let's move on to the next one. Let's check the 𝗏𝐸 with the Aventus Absolute. Believe it or not, these might be closer to each other because of that Middle Eastern flair, those spices, but still they differentiate itself enough for it not to be a direct clone. But I would honestly say that these two are much closer than this one and the original Aventus. Let's move to the next. We're gonna try now Rave Now Intense Black versus Aventus. No, this is actually hybrid-ish adjacent. Just maybe the bergamot and slight juicy pineapple vibes, but the pineapple here is a lot punchier than it would be here. Let's check the Absolute. No, this is a lot juicier, a lot younger. Definitely doesn't have the depth or refinement of the other two fragrances. Very good, but youthful, young, party vibes. These are a little bit more on the classier vibe. So I would say percentage-wise, on the original Aventus and 𝗏𝐸, maybe I should give it percentages. I would say on the 10th anniversary versus the 𝗏𝐸, 35%. With the 𝗏𝐸 and the Absolute, 45%. Now the Rave Black And the Absolute, 5 to 8%. The Rave Black versus the original Aventus, 9, 10%. At least on dry down. Next one. Now we're getting into some heavy hitters with L'Aventure versus Aventus. A little bit richer. This has been sitting on the shelf a lot longer. There's a lot of maceration going on here. This smells like an older Aventus batch, but I would say 70-ish percentile. But this smells like one of the older batches because this is an old bottle, so it's been sitting there forever.
It's been 84 years.
Actually has a little bit of a funk. Maybe it went bad, I don't know.
Jesus Christ.
Nah, it didn't go bad, but it's a lot richer, a lot bolder, a lot deeper. Let's try with the Absolute. Aventus Absolute, Haramain L'Aventure. The bolder and darker this got, it has a little bit more closeness to here, minus the cinnamony punch. I would say that's in the 60th percentile, but so far, that's pretty impressive. Next one. Aventus again with the Lord Club de Nuit Intense Man. A little bit more brightness in this Club de Nuit, but still quite up there. Club de Nuit, a little bit dirtier, soilier. I want to say that this is like 69%, 70-ish. It's hovering there, very close. Let's check with the Absolute. Absolute, Club de Nuit, no. Wow, for some reason it strays away a decent amount. It stays closer to the 10th anniversary, but kind of decently like 50-ish%. But yeah, this one just puts itself in a league of its own, but again, 68, 69, 70%. Yeah. Now let's try a new cheapie in the collection, Dumont Paris Nitro Platinum versus 10th anniversary. Can't wait till I pass out on camera. I might get more views. What a headache.
It hurts a little, but I like it.
The pineapple here is punchier, syrupier, richer, but surprisingly, decently close. The pineapple here is just richer though. Still a little bit more youthful, but I put this in like about 58 to 62%. Let's try with the Absolute. Absolute Nitro Platinum. Pineapple still richer here, and I guess smelling these side by side, it feels like the cinnamon kind of trickled over for some reason. Maybe it's just in my brain that it's just meshing everything together. But the ginger snap essence in the Absolute somehow seems to be kind of resonating here as well, but not as much as it is on the 10th anniversary. I'm gonna give this, yeah, like 50, high 50 percentile for like a 20-something dollar fragrance. All right, next one. Now we're doing Poseidon's Absolute Elixir, which is a clone of the new Aventus Absolute by 𝐷UA. Let's just do these two start off with. They got the cinnamon. They really emphasize on the cinnamon. Now I fuck with 𝐷UA. I collaborate with 𝐷UA all the time. That's pretty fucking close actually. Wow. This is gonna sound biased as shit, but that's very fucking close. That's high in the 80s. It's the cinnamon, nutmeg, that spice blend. Very fucking close. Shit. I'm even getting goose pimpies on this motherfucker. Wow, that's surprising. Let's try with the regular Aventus. I don't think it's gonna, no. It's all about that cinnamon essence. Wow. These two, it's the cinnamon note. If you get a clone or an interpretation and you add those little spices, that special spice blend that's in here, you're gonna hit it, and they hit it. They gas chromatograph the shit out of this joint. That's in the 80s. That's 82, 83, maybe higher. That is crazy close. Wow, that's fucking surprising. Maybe this macerated better. All right, next one. The Lord of Pens Mont Blanc Explorer versus Aventus 10th anniversary. A little faint. Actually, a lot faint. Each one of them got 3 sprays on the test strip evenly because I wanted it to be as fair as possible, but it's quite faint. It's got the inspiration, but it's got its own thing. This one's a little bit on the fresher side. The bergamot here is slightly sweeter, a little bit more sugary, but also fresher and more aquatic-y than the original Aventus. So I know right offhand it's not even gonna be in the same stratosphere as Absolute, but we'll do it. Yeah, no, not even the same planet. It feels like it's kind of more of its own thing on the dry down. You get the similarities for sure, but I would put this in 35%. You can definitely see the inspiration aspect, but as far as full-blown clone, 35%. Let's try one of my old gems, Le Parfait, which is kind of a hybrid versus the Aventus. Screams GIT more. Definitely, the older this has gotten, it screams more GIT, and this one's just hovering in the background. It's not even gonna be a fair comparison. Maybe 7, 8%. More green iris tweed. It's gonna have that same effect with Aventus Absolute. No, not even in the same planet. 5%-ish, because you do pick up the pineapple, you do pick up that bergamot essence of the Aventus, but it's more green iris tweed. Next one. So the next comparison we're gonna do is Cubaknow versus Aventus. Also with the richer pineapple. a lot sweeter. Damn near diabetic. Does have elements of the Aventus vibes, but very sweet. Seems a lot sweeter. Shit.
So much sweetness. I think I'm gonna be sick.
That BR540 kind of sweetness in this joint. The sugar aspect on this joint. Definitely super young buck. 20%, 25% is a lot of sweet energy in this joint. The Absolute is definitely not going to be in that space, but we'll do the comparison anyway. I think it has kind of that same effect as the Du Monde Paris. Somehow that cinnamon correlates with the sweetness in my brain. But yeah, I'm still living in that 20 to 25%. Next one. And finally, the OG Insurrection 2. I believe it's Insurrection Pure versus Aventus. One of my first clones. A lot fresher. It also smells kind of like an older batch of Aventus too. Which one I don't remember. Not like the 2012 or 2010 batch, whatever. But definitely a lot fresher take on it. You can absolutely tell that it's inspired by Aventus. I give this like in the 58, 60. Yeah, like a fresher version. But these batch variations are so many. But it's definitely inspired by 60s, low 60s. Let's try Absolute. Nah, this stands in a space of its own. Around 60% to the original Aventus. So essentially to the original Aventus, the closest ones have been Haramain's L'Aventure, Club de Nuit Intense Man, and I want to say Insurrection Pure. The closest to the Absolute by a landslide is the Duo one, because they just got the cinnamon on point. That cinnamon or whatever spice blend is in here, they got that shit on point. This is living in that 80%, which was very surprising. I think maceration had a lot to do with these shits, because when you sit any of these joints on the shelf, they seem to get a lot richer, and some of the older blends like the Haramain, the Club de Nuit, the Insurrection have more body and more scent profile the longer they have sat on the shelf. So I think that definitely has something to do with it. But with this one, it's really all about that spice blend. So if you're able to get that little bit of cinnamon, allspice variant into your Absolute clone, then it's definitely gonna be close 1-to-1. Now, although this is not 1-to-1, but it's a very high percentage. So definitely this one. Surprisingly to my nose, the Du Monde Platinum, the sweetness, as I mentioned before, somehow lingers a little bit on this one. It's a very interesting breakdown. One thing that I definitely notice about this test is maceration is key with these budget fragrances. Surprisingly, Mont Blanc to my nose ended up being a lot more individual than I expected from the original Aventus. The first blast of these fragrances definitely gives you that kind of Aventus DNA, and we're gonna run through that real quickly. So we'll start off with opening of Insurrection Pure 2, just to see if we get that initial blast. Like the cap is falling off this freaking thing, it's so old. Let's do 3, like we'll keep that same energy of 3. I mean, you just get Aventus right from jump. It'll be the first thing that pops into your head. Still very fresh and a lot richer on the opening. The dry down kind of tightens up a little bit. Loosens us up a little bit as it's tighter on the opening. Interesting. Cubed Alforcine on opening. I mean, sweetness. You get the inspiration as well. Not a 1-to-1 for sure, but very, very sweet. I think the longer that has sat on my shelf, it's gotten even sweeter. That's almost too sweet. Le Parfait, I already know that. This is just shot over to Green Irish Tweed. Ooh, more mentholic on the opening. Definitely a lot greener, herbal, almost Ben Gay-ish like. That's kind of weird. I didn't smell these on the opening when I sprayed them. I just sprayed them and put the test strips to go to full dry down. So these openings are surprising to me as well right now. Green, very Green Irish Tweed, super green. Surprisingly good green though, but GIT all. Mont Blanc Explorer. I shitted on this fragrance instantly when I got it. Let's see now. It's good that you get the Aventus DNA right from rip, 100%. It's that your brain knows it and you're gonna get it. But the dry down does turn into much more of its own personality. But the opening, it just screams King Aventus. Next one, the Duo Absolute Elixir, inspired by Absolute. The spices. All about the spices. That shit is crazy. Very impressive. Next one, newcomer in the clone space, Nitro Platinum. Cheap as shit, $27 or $30. Sticky ass pineapple. Very Aventus inspired with a very sticky pineapple. Very molassesy, very sweet, very candy-like. Not as sweet as Cubed Alforcine. Way more tolerable. Pretty good. King Club de Nuit. I mean, it's on one. It's got a lot of body, bro. Let these shit sit or put them in a wine cooler or a fridge or something. You'd be surprised how these shit develop. Next one. My favorite, L'Aventure. This is one of my favorite Creed interpretations, personally. Oof. Monster. Monster, another oldie in my collection. Monster this is developed into, my God. You see the goose pimples? Yeah. Oof. Rave Now Black. There's gonna be another sweet bomb here. Very pineapple syrup forward. It's a lot. When you do comparison with next to these, you start to pick up the sweetness a lot. It's like an unbalanced dessert. It needs a saltier, deeper component to offset the sweetness. The sweetness is a ton. 19 Degrees by 𝗏𝐸. Yeah, you get the Aventus-ish DNA, but a lot more herbal, a lot more, labdanum, grittier, dirtier, more body. It's got more of its personality on the opening too. It's in the space, but not a one-to-one clone. So essentially, for me, Haramain L'Aventure, Club de Nuit, Insurrection Pure 2, as far as Aventus original OG style DNA. For the Absolute, the Dua joint, for sure, a little bit of this Du Monde Paris, and that's pretty much it. I hope this helped you guys make your selection of whatever way you decide to go with the Aventus DNA, and I'm sure I have other clones there. When I start cleaning up the area and find other ones, maybe I'll do a part 2. I love y'all mother suckers from the heart. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all bitches next time. You know what it is, biggest in the game. Smooches.